Union Labour Minister Bandaru Dattatreya has been charged with abetment to suicide, a charge that carries a jail term of up to 10 years. A case has been filed by the Hyderabad police under section 306A of the IPC against Bandaru Dattatreya. The University of Hyderabad Vice Chancellor Appa Rao, ABVP activist Sushil Kumar and his brother Vishnu in a case of a Dalit student's suicide in the city. Importantly, the charges could multiply if the Dalit angle is added to the equation. The HRD ministry has meanwhile announced that a two-member panel will be set up to probe this case. Editor South T.S. Sudhir now joins me for more on this story. Now, Bandaru Dattatreya is the Minister for Labour and Employment. Tell me more about this FIR against him.
Well, Bandaru Dattatreya Gaurav is the MP from Hyderabad Lok Sabha constituency. So in many senses, he is a local person. Now, he is the person who had written that letter to the HRD Minister Smriti Irani calling some of the activities on campus here at the Hyderabad Central University as casteist, extremist and anti-national. So very strong words, and he singled out Ambedkar Students Association for mention because they were the ones who had protested against the hanging of Yaqub Memon on the 30th of July. So what you're seeing on campus is essentially a narrative which is running at two different levels. One is of course the Dalit versus non-Dalit, one is the BJP versus non-BJP. Let's get a sense of what the students here on campus are feeling about it. Now, there were these 5 students who were expelled, all of them Dalit, all of them research scholars. Do you think justice was not done in the manner in which their social boycott was undertaken? They cannot enter the hostels, etc.
Yeah, it just shows what's been happening since the past. Just socially boycott them and just leave them here to fend for themselves. That was completely not right. They were research scholars, they need all those kind of facilities. Even from the very start, all the investigations that have been done, those committees are always one-sided. They'll say that there was no fight happening and stuff, but in the end they always say that okay, it was the ASS students who need to be penalized. So that is not right. It's
Most
very
of the students also spoke about the 2 other research scholars who were also in the group of 5 who were suspended. They say there is a strong feeling of discrimination against Dalit students who are 30 to 40% of the entire student population here.
2 years back there was a Dalit student who felt that his research the teacher who was in charge of him, they're not being there is a sort of discrimination happening with them. So this sense of discrimination is there.
Okay, this feeling of insecurity is what Gaurav many people speak about. Do you think the Vice Chancellor probably should have acted in a more sensitive manner, handled this more maturely?
Actually, if you look into the situation, this is not only about the tussle that is happening between 2 political organizations, or it's not about the unethical, the unethical politics that has been encouraged in our country. It's actually about the inconsiderate attitude of a management towards 5 Dalit research scholars who has been sleeping out in the open for past 12 days. I mean, the VC passes around here for 5 times a day. It would have taken just an hour from his life to just come talk to the students, at least give them a hope of finding a future back here in the university.
The HRD ministry has appointed a 2-member team to come to your university and find out what are the facts on the ground. What do you think they should really be looking out for?
Not just the current issue, but they should go back. They should get all the reports. They should delve into detail and find out what has actually happened and not just biased reports. They should not fall into, a few protests might not get the actual cause. They should find out what happened. I mean, these are 5 students, one of whom lost his life yesterday.
Absolutely, lost his life. Extremely tragic incident taking place here at the University of Hyderabad. Just to get you a sense of what is happening, there are these sporadic protests which are taking place. In fact, many faculty members, Gaurav, also have joined the protests. They say and agree with what the students here said, that what the Vice Chancellor did was probably not really the right decision to take, and he could have probably handled it in a much more of a sensitive and mature manner. Gaurav?
Okay. Now, the 5 scholars, were they in violation of university rules? When a complaint was made against them, were they given a fair hearing before a decision was taken to expel them?
Well, there was a proctorial board which was set up in August. Interestingly, Gaurav, the first time the board met and they actually investigated this entire case, they found no medical evidence that this ABVP activist Sushil Kumar was actually assaulted. So, in fact, this 30-odd members of the Ambedkar Students Association who were in that, alleged to have assaulted him, were actually let off with a warning. Subsequently, there was this letter which was written by Bandaru Dattatreya to Smriti Irani, and suddenly things took a U-turn. The same proctorial board met again, and then they decided that yes, these people were guilty, and that was followed by a suspension of these four of the research scholars. Subsequently, it was temporarily revoked, but in December, on the 18th of December, they were expelled from the campus, and there was a letter issued which said that they cannot make use of any of the facilities, including the hostel facilities. So this kind of a social boycott was seen as a humiliation. We have with us the letter which was written by Rohit Vemula, the student who committed suicide yesterday, actually to the Vice Chancellor on the 18th of December, pleading with him that this kind of discrimination is not right, and indeed if this kind of discrimination is to continue, the university authority should actually provide all Dalit students with a rope and poison in their hostel room. So that kind of gives you an idea about the kind of insecurity, the kind of anger, the kind of anguish that many of the students have been going through.
Now, was this a discipline issue or was this a Dalit versus non-Dalit issue, and that's the way this matter was progressing? Now, this FIR against Bandaru Dattatreya, is that, getting a Dalit, abetting the suicide of a Dalit scholar?
Well, it is operating at different levels, Gaurav. Yes, the whole thing, in a sense, the protest against the hanging of Yaqub Memon was in many senses a tipping point. That was really not appreciated by many people who were perhaps in favor of the hanging of Yaqub Memon. And subsequent to that, the protest started. The ABVP activist Sushil Kumar alleged that he was assaulted. So in many senses, it is operating at a Dalit versus non-Dalit issue. It is operating as a BJP versus non-BJP issue. It is also operating at a level of the ABVP wanting to make inroads into the student politics here on the campus of University of Hyderabad. So it is operating at different levels, and what has happened to Rohit Vemula is extremely tragic and perhaps sends a point that student politics and the kind of humiliation that was meted out to him by socially boycotting. Those 5 students were actually sleeping out in the open in the winter in Hyderabad, and no one really took care for. Perhaps these faculty members should have registered their protest much before they're actually doing so. It has been 1 month since that decision was taken. Nothing really happened. No one really came forward to say that what is happening to these 5 research scholars sleeping out in the open, socially boycotting them, is not really the right thing to do. So this protest, perhaps by the faculty members, coming a tad too late, but no word at the moment from the University of Hyderabad.
Okay, so keep tracking that story. For the moment, T.S. Sudhir, many thanks for joining me. What will happen to the remaining 4 scholars? We will continue to track that story. Now, the suspension of 5 Dalit research scholars from the Hyderabad University took a tragic turn when on Sunday, one of them committed suicide. Rohit Vemula allegedly hanged himself in his hostel room. The police said that this 28-year-old who was hailing from Guntur was a PhD scholar. The research scholars were expelled from their hostel by the university in December last year following a clash with ABVP students, and they were evicted from their hostel rooms last Monday. They'd been sleeping on the campus in a makeshift tent. The Hyderabad University had allegedly suspended these scholars after BJP leader Bandaru Dattatreya wrote to the HRD minister alleging that Ambedkar Students Association was involved in anti-national activities, terming this suicide as a murder. Now, Dalit and left scholars have called for action in this case.
Don't make it political, my brother. What my brother has done this thing for something, and I just want to ask that VC, why you didn't come here and you just can't.
We are here at the Hyderabad Central University, where you can see students sitting in protest, solidarity with what happened yesterday, the tragic incident of Rohit Vemula, a research scholar committing suicide at the hostel here. There is a sense of anger, there's a sense of anguish, and the whole thing is getting polarized on caste lines as Dalit versus non-Dalit. There are a whole lot of placards holding photograph of Rohit Vemula saying we will give it back to them. So the whole anger is directed at the Union Minister of State Bandaru Dattatreya, who had written a letter asking for action to be taken against the Ambedkar Students Association way back in August, against the decision of the Vice Chancellor to expel them, and also in a sense a social boycott wherein they were not allowed to enter the hostels. Let's get a sense of what is happening on campus. With me is a professor here, Joby Joseph. Is there a lot of anger and the whole thing is getting polarized on caste lines? Is that the way you also see it?
I think it was to start off an action or along the caste lines. So I think naturally you should expect polarization take place along the caste lines. I think so. There was a series of incidents which has led to this situation. So it is not suddenly that.
And the presence of you in this protest means that it is not students versus the administration. It's professors also joining in.
No, so there was a series of protests going on. I was not an active part of that protest, but yesterday I heard about the suicide, so I went to that place and I could see students and members of the campus who were there were quite agitated. So I thought I'll stay over and see what happens. So they wanted basically the VC, who seems to have started off the chain of events, to come and at least talk to them, and
Which hasn't happened so far. I'm seeing this letter which has been written on the 18th of December, which is extremely emotional. It says that please supply a nice rope to the rooms of all Dalit students. It says please serve 10 mg of sodium aside. What does this really convey?
This conveys only one message, that in the last 5 years in University of Hyderabad there have been 10 suicides, including Rohit Vemula's suicide. And we want to state one thing clearly: these are not suicides, these are murders.
In fact, this is another letter which has been written by the SC/ST Employees and Teachers Association, which says that how long will you keep killing us, harassing and humiliating us? Please wake up and let us live in this university and country. So it's extremely unfortunate that this entire thing is getting polarized, as the speakers was pointing out, on caste lines. And it seems, if one is going by the kind of voices that we are getting from this protest site out here, that there is a lot of anger, there is a lot of anguish among the people out here, and they are wanting that some action should be taken. The people responsible for the suicide committed by Rohit Vemula should be brought to book. At the Hyderabad Central University with camera person Manohar, this is TS Sudhir for India Today.
और वो चल पड़ा, और चलने के पहले उसने ढेर सारी चीजों का अध्ययन किया होगा, टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलप की होगी, और नया एक उसने